the biggest concern about the Cartesianism was much more concrete and much more practical. He could trace out, of course, the theory and the problems on a theoretical level with Cartesianism, and he certainly did. But I would say at the root of it, it's a pastoral concern about one, leading people down a dead end of methodological doubt in the way that you arrive at faith and the way that you know God. That, I think, even if you read the Gangrena, I think you would find places where that's where some of his deepest concerns are. And he's also deeply concerned, not just simply about this abstract philosopher somewhere.
Right.
I think what's exercising him the most is that there's folks that are appropriating these aspects of Descartes' method that are within the Reformed Church in this period. So it's a much more proximate concern.
Mm-hmm. And ecclesiastical too. I mean, it's within the context of the church. That's the reason for his concern.
Correct.
You mentioned Voetius? People were not in the mix of all this, and I'm not well versed in this theology or historical theology myself. It's not my field. I'm interested, but it's not my expertise. But there's been some thoughts, or at least an understanding that Mastricht was a follower of Voetius, or at least considered in that school of theology. But then I guess others have questioned that to see that some of his work or other people he's been involved with were Coxean, or something to that effect. I mean, how are we to understand Maastricht's relationship to Voetius and Voetius's theology?
Well, one thing I would say is that whenever he was engaged in his work in Cologne and Xanten and other places, there were Coxeans in his congregation. So he is I would say, a Voetian theologian. But when he's on the ground as a pastor, he still has to engage Coxeans. He still is trying to be some level of he's still trying to engage them in a pastoral sort of way that's constructive. He doesn't. So I think that's an important point. One of the things that brought him to some of his other universities before Utrecht, where he served as a professor, was the administration was looking for somebody who was sharp theologically, but was I hesitate to use the word moderate, maybe moderated. Maybe he was much more winsome in his presentation. So I think you might get that sense. It doesn't mean that he can't be feisty. There are certainly places in the Gangrena where he is. But the other thing to add here is that Maastricht's sources, as far as who he's influenced by, it includes someone like William Ames. The relationship of how he structures theology, how he thinks about it. Johannes Hornbeck is certainly a source, but Hornbeck and Voetius at Utrecht are an important point there.